Hi everyone, my name is Mary Hoffman and I'm currently a student in the Master's Program of Data Analytics at UMUC, currently taking class Data 620, Section 9040, Spring 2018, taught by Professor Carrie Beam. And today we are going to be analyzing the current trends of heat indices in the United States and future forecast of those heat indices. And the main goal of this analysis is to determine whether those heat indices are remaining rather steady and consistent over the years and are going to be remaining steady in future years, or if they are increasing as suggested by growing climate change concerns. To do this analysis, we are looking at a data set that has about 20 years worth of historical data, and the measure that we are analyzing here is the average maximum daily heat index from the years of 1991 to 2011. The bold line here is just a simple plot of those averages. This dashed line is actually a trend line, or a linear trend line to be more specific, of this heat index, suggesting the trend over the years that we have and potentially the trend in the future. If we are expecting to see little climate change over these years, we would expect this line to be rather horizontal, indicating no change or very little change. And our trend line in this data set is supporting that hypothesis because even though there is an increase, it is very slight. So we can see the scale on our graph is only 2. And if we were to look at actual differences, in 1991 and 2011, the difference in the heat index is only about 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So from this graph, we would probably assume that our data is staying rather steady and rather consistent, indicating little heat index change and little impacts of climate change. Another way to analyze whether our data is staying consistent or not is to look at the range of heat indice values that our data is contained within. If we expect our data is rather consistent, we would expect the values to be within a rather small range or spread of data. Now in this graph, we have the same exact graph we saw in figure 1. However, we've replaced the trend line with upper and lower bounds, as we call them. And we have created this with the standard deviation count, which is measuring the spread of the data that we have. In this graph, we have set standard deviation to only 1, because again, we're trying to see if our data is indeed staying consistent and contained within a small spread of data, as was suggested in figure 1. And for the most part, we can see that our values are staying within that small range, a few small exceptions like in 1992 or in 2011. But overall, the heat index appears to be staying rather consistent, as we saw in figure 1. Now these are just the measures of the country overall, but the country has several regions which can have vastly different temperatures, which is what we're analyzing here. This is the same exact graph we saw in figure 1 for the overall, and it is still here in the green line. But we have also added 4 different regions of the country, as we can see over here: Midwest, Northeast, South, and West. And while the temperatures indicated by the heat index appear to be different, for example, the West appears to be consistently about 2 degrees lower than what we see in the overall numbers, and the South appears to be about 2 degrees higher than what we see in the overall numbers. We're still seeing the same trends we were seeing with the overall, in that we do see a very slight increase, but overall the data appears to be remaining rather steady, not only overall, but in all the individual regions as well. To look at this further, we'll expand the outlier analysis that we did for the country overall into the regions as well. And for the most part, we can see that the individual regions, just as they were for the overall, may have a few values that are outside the spread of 1 standard deviation, but not that many. So we still believe that our heat indices are staying rather consistent. And finally, we want to use this historical heat index data to see if this trend that we are seeing of consistent heat indexes is going to continue into the future, or if it's going to start increasing or even decreasing. We've created a forecast overall and for each individual region over here to the right. And for example, the overall, the temperature expected in 2023 is about 90 degrees, which is not that much different than the temperature that we actually observed in 1991. And it is staying rather consistent. And we're seeing that as well with the individual regions. The temperature is staying rather steady, and it's not that much different from what we saw in 1991. And given that the precision of the forecast gives us a rather small range of possible future values, we're fairly confident with this forecast. So our overall conclusion of this analysis is that the temperature indicated by the heat index is going to stay rather similar to the values that we were seeing 20 years ago. If it changes, it's only going to be a slight increase. So that concludes today's analysis. Thank you so much everyone for watching.